Early Nights, I'm here with Matt Noble, Marcus James Dixon, and Sam Eckmann to talk about Game of Thrones Season 7. It's finally arrived. It's finally here after such a long hiatus, and we're all so excited to talk about it. I'm going to you first, Matt, because I can see that you're a little cold.
Yeah, well, winter's here, Rob.
Winter is certainly here. And so I want to know straight up, what was your takeaway from episode 1? What did you think about it?
I think they got out of the gate after a long hiatus really strong. Arya on the move to King's Landing to try to take out Queen Cersei. You have Daenerys finally getting to touch the sand of Westeros so she can have her big run at the throne. Some upheaval in the north with Sansa and Jon Snow having a bit of a disagreement in how to move forward in the game. And yeah, it's game on, I reckon. It's all starting to come together.
I know, it's so exciting. Marcus, what did you think of Season 7, Episode 1?
My big takeaway is let's start the Emmy campaign for Ed Sheeran right now. Best guest actor in a drama series.
Best song, best original
amazing.
Song.
Best original song.
Give all the Emmys. But no, seriously, I've been waiting for this show all year, over a year, and I feel like the TV season has begun. Game of Thrones is my favorite show. I think it's the best thing of 2017. There's been a lot of good TV already, but this is by far the best thing I've seen all year. And it's only going to get better. I mean, these premieres of Game of Thrones are not always the best episodes of the season. So knowing that, you know, I can't wait to see where these guys take us next.
Oh, totally. Sam, what did you think?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the first episodes of Game of Thrones are always sort of like putting the chess pieces in place for everything that's about to happen in the season. And I can't wait to see where it goes from here. I think I really don't have many lowlights other than, you know, Euron looking like a Williamsburg hipster a little bit. But other than that, it was an amazing episode. And even though it didn't have action in the sense of some of the other big set pieces from last season, it still managed to have a lot of, I thought, pathos, and a lot of the characters were sort of reflecting back, and we got a lot of really great character moments that we touched on basically almost every character in the show in just an hour. So
yeah,
the first season's sort of like setting the board. Like the first episode is like setting the board for the season, I reckon. Like, you know, it's like Monopoly. Like, you know, the first go around, no one's bought any properties yet. There's no there's no big moves happening, but just the foundations are being set for some good stuff to come.
Yeah, and so even though it wasn't like one of those big episodes that we see every season, like Battle of the Bastards and episodes like that, it was still so well done. I found that by the time the credits were rolling, I was thinking, shit, is that it? I want to see more. I was ready to keep watching it. And it disappointed me that it was over so quickly, which means that it was very well written, very well edited. It was very tight. Every single scene kind of had a purpose, and I love when Game of Thrones is firing on all cylinders. And honestly, even though this is a little unfair to everything else on TV right now, I do feel like saying to the class of 2017, this is how you do it. Like they're not mucking around. Like this is the best thing on television by far, and that's saying something in probably the best TV season we've ever had in history. This just knocked everyone out of the park, and I was just so impressed with it. I was so excited about the opening with Arya, and just she's a badass, man. And when she says the North remembers and winter has come for House Frey, I almost fell off the couch. Like, that was incredible. Does anyone have anything in particular to say about the beginning parts with Arya? Because that character has come such a long way, and she's so beloved now, isn't she?
Yeah, that was my favorite.
I'm so glad she's not with the Faceless Men anymore.
Yeah.
She wasn't. They got the actor who played Walder Frey in, right, for that first scene, or was that Maisie Williams? Sorry, if that was her at the beginning, a very good David Bradley impersonation.
I love that.
That was
going forward though.
Well,
I'm nervous for her not rejoining her family, and I mean, it's the path we want her to take, like going to take on Cersei, but It's like I feel like she's going to meet a tragic end or something, and I'm not ready to watch that.
I just hope she messes with Cersei first before she kills her. Like she becomes Tommen and she's like, "Hi, Mom, remember me? I'm the guy that jumped out the window."
Yeah.
Like can she become anyone in the
Oh.
world? Like,
that's a very good point.
What are the
I thought
rules?
she
of
has
that?
to know them or have killed them
Okay.
in order to become them, but I could be wrong.
That'd be cool if
And
she
also-
could do that.
Also, we have Jon Snow and Sansa apparently going to King's Landing as well. It seems like so. Maybe we'll see a Stark reunion with with those two and with Arya. How awesome!
It would be awesome. It's overdue, isn't it? We're all kind of gunning for that now.
I think there's a lot of like people on the board that you sort of want to see what happens if they are able to meet up, and it's definitely like you got Arya and Sansa and Jon that you want to see what happens, but you've also got sort of the Mountain with Cersei down in King's Landing, and the Hound still with the Brotherhood without banners. You've got you got the Greyjoys, the sort of Theon's uncle sort of on the move. Are they going to meet up somewhere? You got Bran up at the wall. Is he going to meet with some of the Starks? So there's there's a lot of sort of pairings. Varys and Littlefinger. Like, are we going to see them meet up again in the last season? Like, they've both gone separate directions, but yeah. So like, there's a lot of pairings that have been split that you want to see what happens in the last sort of 14 episodes with them.
That's a good point. Thematically, another thing that really occurred to me, and it's not rocket science, but this episode very much was about girl power, because you started off with Arya as the badass, and then you had Lady Lyanna, the 10-year-old queen who is just amazing. Love her to pieces. She's so fantastic. And then you had like Sansa kind of putting her foot down with Jon Snow and kind of telling him what to do because he wasn't maybe making the right decisions. You had like Cersei just being a complete evil bitch, and then you had,
I love it.
There's so much to unpack here with the women, and then it ends with, the Dragon Queen, finally setting foot on Westeros. Like, it really, I think the women in this episode excelled most of all, and that was very exciting to watch.
That's a really great point. The scene with Cersei and Jaime where she basically talks about her children being ashes, it just gave me chills. She's one of the best villains to ever come across TV or movies, like the best entertainment villain in a very long time.
Yeah, and speaking of like entertainment villains, I'll just mention that it was Sansa and Jon who were kind of debating like who's worse. Is it the Night King in the north or is it Cersei in the south? And quite frankly, I was sitting there thinking, it could be Cersei, because I think she's even worse than the Night King. She's the worst. And that's great. And that's a testament to the performance and also just the way this character is written. Every single time she's on the TV, I'm transfixed. She's fantastic.
Yeah, that's always been such a strength of this show, is strong female characters, both villains and heroes. And like, we're going into this final season with Cersei, the big villain on the Iron Throne, Daenerys, the big hero, sort of like, the big hero of the show at the moment is a woman, the big villain at the show is a woman. They're both really strong characters. And that's why at the Emmy Awards, we've seen, like last season, we had 3 of the women nominated. Like the Emmys have reflected the strength of the female characters in that show too, where the women have done better than the men when it comes to Emmy nominations the past couple of years.
This would be a good Maisie Williams episode. I mean, we don't know what's coming next, obviously, but that impact scene in the first one was so incredible, and then later the Ed Sheeran scene, which is, some people like it, some people didn't like it, but it was still a nice side of her that we don't really see. We got to see Arya laughing. I can't remember the last time I saw her.
I love it, like a little girl that she is. Remember, like, she's not the big badass fighter and sword fighter. She's actually just a little girl, and so it was nice to be reminded of that.
Yeah, Ed Sheeran took me out of Game of Thrones world a bit, seeing a celebrity like as a pop star, but it was actually quite a nice scene. Like, it was a great scene. Yeah, like
I was glad they for once showed Bannerman villains who are not just like cannon fodder and just the evil guys.
Yeah,
it harkens back to the conversation John had of, I'm not going to punish a son for his father's actions because he was a traitor. He didn't do that. And Arya sort of stumbles upon these people who are on the evil side, but they still are talking about their wives and children, and she has to take a moment to pause and realize that, you know, these are also people. They're not just the evil guys.
Why do you think they chose to have Ed Sheeran on the show? Because it did take me out. It was distracting. I was thinking, are we going to get Katy Perry next week? Are we going to get Bruno Mars the week after? Like, it's completely unnecessary. And
Lady
as soon as I
Gaga.
heard the beautiful singing Lady Gaga,
Yeah.
she wrapped in flags from all the different houses. Like, we could go into pop culture for the rest of the season, and I hope they don't. Please, no more Ed Sheeran. That annoyed me.
I think
Well,
Maisie Williams
they have a
is a
history
fan.
of, yeah, they have a history of casting musicians on the show. They've popped up in other smaller roles. I think Ed Sheeran was just like the most famous and recognizable one of them so far, so it kind of played a little differently.
Scruffy.
It's funny because I was actually at the premiere last week, and when Ed Sheeran's scene came on, there was audible laughter in the audience, a lot of cheers as well. And then you had, you know, Jim Broadbent, Oscar-winning actor Jim Broadbent, who popped up in the Sam scene, and not a single clap from the crowd, which made me wonder: do they not know who this is, or do they just respect him so much that they believe the role? Whereas Ed Sheeran, they just like, this is ridiculous.
I remember like the West Wing season 1. They had an episode where they went to LA, and David Hasselhoff and Jay Leno were there at the party and stuff. The show was still sort of trying to get established a bit, but then after that, you didn't really see till the later seasons of the show this sort of stunt casting like Bon Jovi and stuff on the West Wing. I feel like Game of Thrones is sort of probably beyond needing to have stunt casting. People are already pretty interested in this show. Like, it's not like, oh man, Ed Sheeran's on. Oh, good. Like, it sort of seems like more the kind of thing, a show that's either trying to get established or is struggling in the ratings would do. So I guess it must be like just Ed Sheeran was a fan of the show, and they're a fan of him. And as Sam said, they've had musicians before, because it's definitely also something that the show needs. Like, everyone was going to be watching it.
Another scene that elicited a big response from the crowd was the scene where Sam, the edited scene where he's cleaning the bedpan and serving the food. But people were applauding. I guess the editing was so genius there that it stood out a lot.
But every time you had to see a turd in a bedpan, I was like, please stop! I don't want to see anymore. And then it looked the same in the food, man. It was like food, poo. And it was like, I can't remember which is which. And it was really freaking me out. I'm like, please no more. And it just went on and on and on. And I'm like, oh my God, it's disgusting. Yeah, it was good.
And you know, like, Sam is going to find a piece of information in this book, or like this secret book that he's not meant to be reading, that will help save them from the White Walkers. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, you know, I actually think there's a misdirect there.
Oh.
Because if you notice, Gilly, because Sam only knows about Dragonglass because he happened to kill White Walker. So that's all he's searching for. Gilly takes a restricted book that says, I think it's Legends of the Long Night, something to that effect. So I feel like that one is actually going to have more info about the long winter that came before, and it'll actually be through that other book that he's not anticipating that it'll come from.
I would love that if Gilly kind of stepped up and did something other than just watching her baby, which is important. But it would be great to see that. She's such an underused character.
Don't judge a book by its cover.
That's it. So we have to wait.
What do we make of the ending of that scene where Sam's walking down the hallway and Ian Glenn's character, I forget his name, he reaches out and he's got the stone.
Yeah.
How did he get there? What are your theories?
Stumped.
I didn't have one.
I
don't know, because that's a long way to travel. Sometimes the time doesn't really. But I was thinking maybe he's how Sam gets to Dragonstone. You know, maybe if Sam can find a way to cure him, he's like the ticket into Dragonstone, and sort of like maybe Sam can negotiate with Daenerys to get the Dragonglass under there.
Mm-hmm. You know, there was one scene in particular that was kind of heartbreaking, just to change the subject, and that was when it was towards the beginning when we're seeing the White Walkers walk down out of the mist, and then the giant's being turned as well. I felt so bad for him. I just felt really bad for him. I love that character, and he has never said a freaking word. He has no backstory, but I just loved him, and I felt really bad that he was now part of that gang as well. And there's one other thing I was going to raise, and that is when Cersei and Jaime are debating on the huge map of Westeros, and she's kind of taking stock of her enemies to the north and to the south with the sand snakes, and to the east and to the west. And Jaime's trying to plead with her to kind of start acting rationally for a change. To me, that was actually the best scene of the whole episode, and that's saying something because everything was so brilliant. I was so invested in that. I just think it was so perfectly well written. It was like a recap of what's been happening and what's to come.
She was like saying, like, that brother Tyrion you love, he's hand of the king to Daenerys now. Yeah. Like, what's going on there? Like, so
I like that scene too. That's a good point. I do think that Jaime, the past season and a half, has been kind of underused. I would like to see him kind of have a big storyline this year. Otherwise, just kill him off because he's not really doing anything on the show.
Yeah, let's just kill him off. I agree. No.
Yeah, I agree.
But from what Sam said earlier, the Euron scene was kind of slightly of a letdown because I just don't really buy that character. The Danish accent was really distracting, and because of the Danish actor, and when he was kind of like making little comments about Jamie's kind of just like standing there like, and I was like, why don't you just get the sword out and just smash him? Like, what are you doing? Like, you're such a milquetoast. Like, come on, man up. But that didn't happen. So I got a little cranky at that scene as well. And I hate that Euron Greyjoy characters. Just hurry up and die, please.
Jamie got the best line, though, when he was like, the Greyjoys aren't good at anything. And I was like, thank God someone said it.
They're terrible. What a terrible family.
They, like, Cersei and Jaime need, like, I think this was sort of Cersei's point, they need someone.
True.
Yeah.
Like, you know, Jaime was like, we don't have any allies. What do you think we're going to do? And then she's like, brings in an ally and he can't do anything but complain. Like, who does he want to team up with? Who's Jaime bringing to the table?
That's why Cersei, I think, is a worse villain. A better villain, because she'll turn on her allies. And the Night King, he never turns on his zombies. They all love their leader, but Cersei pisses everyone off.
Yeah, but she's got no allies now. She's on an island. She's got the Greyjoy. She's got Euron. I think he says he's going to bring her a present. What present do you think this will be, guys?
I don't know.
Oh,
I think it's going to be the head of Tyrion.
Theory.
Oh, what's your theory?
I think it's going to be Gendry.
Oh.
Because the only thing that, I think it's the only thing that'll like anger Cersei even more now is if, you know, he came back and was like, I'm the Baratheon king. And people are not happy with her. They would love another option. And I think the North is not going to want Daenerys on the throne. So they might rally behind a Baratheon king, or the Eyrie might rally behind that. So I think he's going to be like, my gift to you is finally killing off this family line.
Nice.
I think that's a really good theory. It could also be, you know, he's going to kill Tyrion and bring Tyrion's head to her on a platter.
Yeah, I was thinking he's going to hit up Dragonstone. He's going to like kidnap someone from Dragonstone. Hopefully not. Hopefully not Theon. Like, hey, here's your present, Theon, another Greyjoy.
Hasn't Theon seen enough? Poor guy.
The show has, what, 25 main characters now? We're going to have to start killing people off. So
please.
Who do you think could die this season? I mean, whose storyline is basically over? I think Jaime is a good suggestion.
He's on the way out.
I mean, I think Cersei's going to be the big season finale death. I do.
Yeah.
Because she represents all the politics and the human aspect and the backstabbing. And when we get into next season, when like the White Walkers have to come over the wall at some point and just epic battle ensues. And I don't know how she fits into that.
Who would you guys want to kill Cersei? Because you've got Arya going down south to do it. That would be pretty satisfying.
Yeah.
You've got Daenerys and the dragons, and that would be pretty amazing to see, you know, this you know, exiled female queen come and take the throne from another queen, from the evil queen. You've got Tyrion, who could get revenge on his sister, who treated him pretty awfully, or you do have Jaime, who could turn on her and be the Queen Slayer. Like,
I think Arya called it. She has first dibs, so I give it to her.
She did have first. Yeah, I just hope it's something really glorious because she's got it coming after the events of the season finale in season 6. I think everyone's baying for blood. We're baying for blood, which is kind of scary. Yeah, that would be very cool. So final thoughts. My final thought is that the end of the episode was at Dragonstone. I don't know a lot about that particular location, so I'm going to look into it a bit more. But it was so beautifully done. Like the production design there was out of this world. There's not a lot of dialogue, and yeah, I love how it ended. I'm just completely beside myself, waiting for the next episode now.
What was was that where Stannis was? Dragonstone.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Targaryens left.
Because they had the Stannis's banner like up there when she got there, and she's like,
Yeah,
oh,
she's
chuck
like,
that to the ground.
Yeah.
That's the place where Davos, became friends with Stannis' daughter, and he learned to read there.
I feel like the budget has been upped for the maintenance staff at Dragonstone since Stannis was there. Like someone came in and goes, you know what, this place could look a bit bigger. Like let's polish it up. Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah. So, any further final thoughts before we finish up?
Were you guys on? Sansa's side or Jon Snow's side when they're having their argument in front, their family spat in front of the whole North?
Totally Sansa.
Yeah.
Sansa. I can sort of see both of it. I thought they did a good job.
Oh yeah.
And I like the scene how then she said, "You're like a good king." Like they clearly wasn't her trying to take power away from him. She just had a different view. So that was sort of interesting. I prefer Sansa as a character to Jon. Like I think she would be a more savvy leader. And I love that scene where she said to him, she goes, "You can't be." I love Dad. I loved Rob, but they didn't know what they were doing. Like,
and they lost their head.
Yeah, we cannot be these guys. Which I thought was like a real she's such a savvy character. But I thought they both made good points in that argument though. I sort of changed my mind throughout.
I'll say my final
I'd also say we didn't get to sorry.
Oh, go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was just saying we didn't really discuss my favorite scene for my final thought, which was the Hound's hut and discovering the bodies, the people he left to die. I thought Rory McCann did such a fantastic job. His performance, I thought, was really great. And I love that we got a different side to the Hound with that. And not only that, but he almost a believer, and we get a little bit more information about the Night's King through that scene when he looks into the flames. I thought that was one of the highlights of the episode for me.
Yeah, I like that too. I'll end this, like, my final thought is the first 10 minutes is better than anything I've seen all year, with the Arya scene where she kills the Freys, and then the opening titles going right into the White Walkers approaching in silence. It was just, I couldn't say a word. It was just beautifully breathtaking.
Agreed.
Yeah.